Good evening, you're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Belinda Lloyd.
And I'm Emily Sue. Here are tonight's top stories.
Ricky Wong considers taking government to court over rejection of free TV license as he sacks half his workforce.
Pro-government lawmakers defeat pan-Democrat vote of no confidence in chief executive.
Security Minister willing to consider reasonable sanctions against the Philippines if talks on hostage tragedy fail. Hong Kong television network is sacking 320 staff, more than half its workforce, after the government rejected its application for a free-to-air TV license.
A bitter chairman, Ricky Wong, complained that he had been treated unfairly, and he's considering taking the government to court.
Wong revealed that he had spent more than $900 million on setting up his new station because he was invited by a government official to apply for a license in 2009. After laying low yesterday, Hong Kong television network chairman Ricky Wong faced the media this afternoon to denounce the government's rejection of his bid to break into the city's terrestrial network.
The news is shock to us. The news itself is shock to the management and also to my colleague.
He accused the government of being unfair, unreasonable and unjust by operating in a black box and defeating him in the dark. When asked why he jumped the gun and spent more than $900 million in setting up a new station before his license was even approved, the outspoken tycoon made a startling claim. He said he was approached by someone in the previous government back in December 2009 to apply for a free-to-air TV license. He refused to identify that person or confirm whether any official had assured him in any way that he would get his license. Wong explained how he had waited for 3 years and 10 months for an outcome, only to be told just minutes before yesterday's official announcement that his application had been denied. Instead, pay TV providers Cable TV and PCCW were each awarded a free-to-air license. Wong claims his venture was better in every way than what his competitors had proposed. Wong is now demanding answers as to why he was refused a license and what criteria the government used to reject him.
I really don't know. If I know, I will probably resubmit our application. The point is, and why I hold this press conference is, I wish the government can stand out and tell us what is happening. Okay, what is my score of this process? Okay, what is the score of the others? Even if it's the singing context. Okay, like this Sundays. Okay, at least everybody will know their score, right? I think it's very fair. I think it's very common. And the question I'm asking is, let me know my score.
The HKTV boss revealed that he had spent almost $500 million on program production and operations and another $500 million on building a multimedia center in Cheung Kwan O. His TV venture attracted 250 local artists and 500 staff. Now he's sacking 320 employees. That's 64% of his workforce, expressing deep regret but saying he has no choice. Wong doesn't know what the future has in store for HKTV. There is no channel to appeal against the Executive Council decision, but he has the option to seek a judicial review, or JR, and is considering a legal challenge.
We are seeking the legal advice from our counsel. If we have a strong legal arguments, but definitely for the interests of the company shareholders and our colleague, I don't see any reason why not to go for a JR. I think the benefit of the JR is not only for my company, but also for the whole of Hong Kong.
Wong denied reports that he may buy ATV as an alternative way into the free TV market. While that's an option that many are speculating about, he insisted he has no plans to buy any local station or turn his own operation into a pay TV venture. HKTV informed local stock market regulators about the sackings and warned investors to be cautious. After closing 28% higher yesterday, HKTV shares dropped 33% today to $2.03.
Commerce and Economic Development Secretary Greg So has expressed sadness over the loss of jobs at HKTV, but he's insisting the government was justified in rejecting the station.
But lawmakers are demanding a full explanation as to why the government rejected the previous authority's recommendation to give the broadcaster a chance. Commerce and Economic Development Secretary Gregory So was on the airwaves this morning to defend the government's rejection of HKTV's bid for a free-to-air TV license. So said he had a heavy heart when he heard that the company was sacking more than half of its workforce, but he again insisted that Hong Kong does not have room for 5 free-to-air broadcasters. The government's decision contradicts a recommendation by the Communications Authority's predecessor in 2011 to approve all 3 applications by HKTV, Cable TV and PCCW. But So insisted the Executive Council had thoroughly reviewed HKTV's application against a basket of criteria before making its decision.
A lot of these assessments are based on information that's given by the applicant, some of which is confidential, and the assessment was made on that basis. So I would not be at liberty at this time to disclose these information, and so it presents some difficulty for me to go in greater detail than what I have been given so far.
While So remained tight-lipped, Executive Councillor Regina Ip offered a glimpse of the factors considered by the Cabinet, such as financial standing and broadcasting experience. Ip insisted that EXCO had been comprehensive in its deliberations and hinted that more licences may be approved later. But that's not good enough for other lawmakers. The Civic Party's Kwok Ka-ki accused the minister in charge of being a hypocrite for expressing sadness over the loss of 320 jobs at HKTV when it was the government that triggered it. Others joined in the chorus of criticism.
There were 3 applications. You allowed 2. You banned 1. Now, this is just so unfair.
Claudia Mo accused the Executive Council of using a different set of criteria from the original version that was used by the then Broadcasting Authority. Pro-establishment lawmakers voiced their concerns as well. New People's Party lawmaker Michael Tien urged the government to explain exactly why it refused HKTV's application, despite the Broadcasting Authority's recommendation. His brother James Chen of the Liberal Party said he was disappointed with the outcome, especially after HKTV's efforts to produce quality programs. He said market forces and audience demand should dictate who should be out of the game rather than the government. To other news, pro-government lawmakers have again defeated a vote of no confidence in the chief executive, backed by all the pan-Democrats.
They accused Leung Chun-ying of polarizing society, but his supporters argued it was unfair to blame him for all of Hong Kong's troubles. The pan-Democrats' second motion of no confidence in Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying since last December came on the eve of his appearance in the chamber for a question and answer session. But the bid was doomed to fail again because of the split voting system that allows pro-establishment lawmakers to dominate the opposition. Today's motion was moved by the Civic Party's Kwok Ka-ki. Kwok said all Leung has done since he took up Hong Kong's top job is to polarize society. The legislator likened Leung to a wizard who specialized in turning good things into bad things. Party colleague Alan Leung complained that the standard of governance had fallen in the past year and accused Leung of destroying Hong Kong's core values in order to help what he called red supporters. Democratic Party chairwoman Emily Lau said Leung's cabinet has failed to do its job because several members are embroiled in scandals. Star relief from the pro-government DAB hit back, saying LegCo sessions should be devoted to discussing policies to improve people's livelihood. She argued that too much time is being spent on attacking Leung. Insurance representative Chan Kin-po argued that it's not fair to blame the current administration for all of Hong Kong's problems. Chief Secretary Carrie Lam defended her boss, describing Kwok's speech as non-factual and exaggerated. Lam disagreed with Kwok's claim that society is now more divided than ever, insisting it's normal for various groups to have different opinions on government policies. She admitted that the administration has performed badly in certain matters, but promised it will do its best to tackle challenges. Radical lawmaker Leung Kwok-hong added some drama to the debate by hurling a figurine of the chief executive to the ground. At the end of the 6-hour debate, the motion was defeated. 32 lawmakers voted against it, 26 were in favor, and 6 abstained. The government is willing to consider reasonable sanctions against the Philippines if talks on the Manila hostage tragedy produce no results.
Lawmakers are pushing for action, complaining that the Philippine government is not taking Hong Kong demands seriously. ATV's Arthur Urquiola reports.
Lawmakers today stepped up pressure on the government to force the Philippines to apologize for the Manila bus siege which claimed the lives of 8 Hong Kong residents 3 years ago. Chief Executive Yeung has been able to persuade Philippine President Benigno Aquino to agree on official talks on an issue that has angered Hong Kong. But the Philippine government is still a long way from resolving the issue by meeting the demands of the survivors and victims' relatives. They want an official apology, compensation, a safety guarantee for Hong Kong visitors to the Philippines, and punishment for officials held responsible for the botched rescue operation. But lawmakers are frustrated over the lack of progress.
It's not just the plight of the victims and their families of the Manila tragedy has been voiced so loudly and clearly. I don't need to repeat all that again and spend public time and resources on the same stories and the same things and the same requests, right? What's the point? Will the government listen? They just won't. They won't.
The League of Social Democrats' Leung Kwok Hung said it's ludicrous that 3 years after the Hong Kong residents were killed by a disgruntled former policeman, the SCR is still no closer to securing an apology from Manila. Some lawmakers are now pressing for trade sanctions to put pressure on the Philippines. People Power lawmaker Albert Chan, who was threatened to move a private member's bill banning domestic helpers from the Philippines, claimed Hong Kong is being bullied by Manila. He said sanctions could show that Hong Kong has some clout and need not wait for another 3 years for the Philippines to react. Security Chief Lai Tung Kwok said he's aware of calls for sanctions, and feasible and reasonable proposals will be considered. He stressed that the administration has a plan for the forthcoming talks, but gave no details. He promised that relatives and survivors will be informed when a substantive outcome is reached. Democrat James To, who is assisting the families, asked whether the SCR government or Beijing would issue an ultimatum if there was no progress. Lai replied that appropriate action would be taken depending on the outcome of the talks, but again he did not go into details. Some lawmakers questioned whether Manila was even taking Hong Kong seriously. Radical lawmaker Raymond said it's a matter of dignity, but the government has been sitting on its hands, trying to water down anti-Philippine sentiment. He criticized Leung's meeting in Bali last week with the Philippine president, who kept the chief executive waiting and had him seated on the side like a subordinate. New People's Party chairwoman Regina Ip called the seating arrangements undesirable. She said it suggested that Manila was belittling Hong Kong and playing tricks. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
And still to come on ATV's main news tonight, 17 killed as powerful storm lashes Japan, destroying homes and disrupting transport.
Wayne Rooney stars at England, win automatic entry to World Cup finals by beating Poland.
Soccer Fever, amazing October. Soccer Fever, Inverness CT versus Partick Thistle, Sunday night at 7:45, live on World Channel. Stay close to fresh K-pop from the hottest selling artists to the up-and-coming superstars. Keep in touch with the latest chart of the Korean pop music scene on Samsung Digital Special, Pops in Seoul, Thursday at 6:25. Report from the heart of Berlin. Take a closer look at the development in one of the most powerful countries in Europe. How much do you know about Germany? Check in current news, people and politics. Friday night at 8. She is a survivor of the Khmer Rouge tragedy. Once a famous dancer, today she contributes to the restoration by teaching dance to children. How can she turn her two talented students into the divine dancers of Cambodia? All About Documentary, Living Cultures, Friday night at 10.
話你知，強積金供款最低有關入息水平由11月1日起提升至7100蚊。
僱員嘅每月收入低過呢個水平，唔需要為強積金供款。
自僱人士都一樣，僱主就要繼續供僱主嗰部分。記得計啱供款額啊！如果你嘅每月收入喺呢個水平或以上，就唔受影響。有疑問就聯絡受託人或積金局。
If every moment of your life is the last chance, will you let it slip away? These people definitely grab every chance firmly. From them, we can see how courage and faith can make a huge difference. Nothing will be barriers to dreams. Only dreamers who are doers can make dreams come true. All About Documentary. Pursuits. Tuesday night at 8:30.
Welcome back. A secondary school in Cheung has suspended 6 classes for 2 weeks following an outbreak of hand, foot and mouth disease.
22 students fell ill and one had to be admitted to hospital. Students and teachers of classes that are still open at Quali Ed College are taking extra precautions following an outbreak of hand, foot and mouth disease at the secondary school in Cheung. Some staff wore face masks after the Center for Health Protection advised the school to suspend 6 classes for 2 weeks, starting today. 20 students aged between 12 and 17 began developing symptoms of the highly contagious viral infection late last month. 12 boys and 8 girls developed oral ulcers, as well as rashes and vesicles on their hands and feet. 16 of them sought medical treatment, and 1 was admitted to hospital, but was discharged last Tuesday. The Center for Health Protection sent staff to inspect the school twice at the beginning of this month and asked those in charge to strengthen preventative measures. But with the emergence of 2 new cases this month, the center ordered the school to suspend 6 classes attended by the students who became ill. The 2-week suspension, which ends on the 29th of this month, affects more than 200 students. Altogether, Quali Ed has just over 1,000 students, and those not affected by the suspension said they are being extra careful. This student says she has not stayed behind for extracurricular activities recently because of the daily cleansing operations at the school. This student said his whole class started wearing face masks and using hand sanitizers. Another put on a brave face. We got through SARS and H7N1. Why should I be scared of this disease, said this student. It's no big deal. But health officials have put the school under medical surveillance in a bid to contain the disease. Overseas, U.S. lawmakers are racing against the clock to prevent a debt default that could have disastrous consequences for the American and global economies.
But hardline Republican conservatives have continued to hold up any progress, even as a crucial deadline looms. ATV's Yeung reports.
Time is running out for the US, which is in the 3rd week of a partial government shutdown. The government must raise its borrowing limit, now at $16.7 trillion by tomorrow, or risk defaulting on its bills. This could send the still shaky US economy reeling, and the ripples could reach every corner of the globe. Already, credit agency Fitch has warned it could downgrade the US government's AAA rating, which would lead to higher borrowing costs for Washington. The pessimism was shared by Wall Street, where shares fell overnight. President Barack Obama held another round of crisis talks, this time meeting senior Democratic lawmakers at the White House to monitor negotiations in the Senate and the House of Representatives.
We're encouraged by the progress that we've seen in the Senate, but we're far from a deal at this point.
The crisis has been blamed on a group of hardline Republicans in the House who are determined to force Obama to make concessions in his health reform law. But most Democrats have accused Republican House Speaker John Boehner for refusing to rein in the fringe elements of his party who are holding up a deal.
Extremist Republicans in the House of Representatives are attempting to torpedo the Senate's bipartisan progress with a bill that can't pass the Senate, and won't pass the Senate. I'm very disappointed with John Boehner, who would once again try to preserve his role at the expense of the country.
The White House is pinning its hopes on a last-minute compromise that will raise the debt ceiling and fund government departments until January or February. But the brinkmanship in Washington is taking its toll, with both parties faring badly in recent opinion polls. Yeung, ATV News.
More international headlines. Beijing has expressed concern after at least 9 Chinese crewmen were killed when a cargo ship sank in a storm in South Korea.
But first, a powerful typhoon has struck Japan, killing at least 17 people and causing transport chaos. Here's Arthur Akiola.
The island of Izu-Oshima bore the brunt of the powerful storm that pounded Japan. At least 13 people were confirmed dead on the island, about 120 kilometers south of the capital, Tokyo. Typhoon Wipa triggered torrential rain, and gale force winds lashed Izu-Oshima, damaging dozens of homes and causing landslides. Rescue teams were flown in from Tokyo to help with rescue and relief work. The Japanese capital also took a battering. It's indeed scary, said this woman. The strong wind and everything, it's incredible. Transport services were badly disrupted by the worst storm to hit Japan in a decade. Bullet train services were suspended and flights to Tokyo were canceled. The typhoon passed close to the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant, where workers had to pump out rainwater from tanks holding contaminated water. A Panamanian registered ship has sunk in heavy seas off the South Korean port of Pohang. The Coast Guard was alerted when the freighter rammed into a seawall after its anchor was snapped by a storm. 8 crew members were rescued, but 9 were killed and 2 went missing. All but 1 of the 19 people aboard were Chinese nationals. Relief operations are underway in the central Philippines, a day after a powerful earthquake rocked the region. An amateur cameraman captured the moment the tremor struck in the island of Bohol. Glass shattered as a building shook when the 7.2 magnitude tremor hit the island. Guests at this resort were among tens of thousands of people who fled in panic. Fear also gripped people in the city of Cebu on a neighboring island as they dashed to safe ground. Calm returned today to the affected region where about 110 lives were lost. But there's a shortage of fuel, and many people complain that they lack food and clean water. Arthur Akiola, ATV News.
Time now for sports with Raymond Yeung.
So, a sigh of relief for England, Raymond?
Well, that's right. They've reached the World Cup finals. England qualified automatically for Brazil after finishing top of their group. It was also a night to remember for Bosnia. They're in their first World Cup finals after all European group qualifying matches ended overnight.
England's 13-month World Cup campaign hinged on their final group match when they hosted Poland at Wembley. The Poles had no chance of going to Brazil for next year's finals, but Robert Lewandowski's effort gave English fans a scare. But they heaved a sigh of relief when Wayne Rooney headed in a pinpoint cross from Leighton Baines just before the break. The celebrations, however, began in earnest only after captain Steven Gerrard tapped in a late goal for the 2-0 win. England booked their ticket to Brazil after topping their group with 22 points, one more than Ukraine, who overwhelmed tiny San Marino 8-0 to earn a playoff place.
I think it's difficult to put into words the amount of pressure that was on the team over the last 8 to 9 days, and we've had a journey of highs and lows over the campaign, but I think our last 2 performances have been really good.
There's still more work for England before the finals in June next year, but manager Roy Hodgson said he deserves a break after a tense week.
We've now got a few months to contemplate how we're going to best prepare for that, but for the next few days at least, or the next few weeks before we play our friendly matches, I think I'll just relax and enjoy what this team has given me, which is a massive feel-good factor and a great honour, if you like.
It was also a nail-biting affair when Bosnia met Lithuania away in another group qualifying match. Bosnia went into their final game ahead of Greece on goal difference and had to finish group winners to avoid a playoff. Goalkeeper Asmir Begovic came to Bosnia's rescue early on, denying a long-range attempt by Lithuania. Bosnian patience finally paid off on 68 minutes when Edin Dzeko sent a low cross to Vedat Ibisevic, who scored. The solitary goal was enough for Bosnia to qualify automatically for their first World Cup finals as an independent nation. Celebrations on the streets of the Bosnian capital went on well into the night. The footballers were the toast of the town, and they were given a hero's welcome on their return home on a chartered flight. Across the Atlantic, Mexico were denied their third and final automatic spot in the CONCACAF zone. Mexico were beaten 2-1 by Costa Rica, but the Mexicans can still turn up in Brazil if they defeat New Zealand in a two-leg playoff. Joyful fans celebrated in Chile after their footballers defeated Ecuador 2-1 to reach the finals, joining Argentina, Colombia and Ecuador from the South American zone. There was heartbreak for Uruguay. They defeated runaway group leaders Argentina 3-2, but that wasn't enough to secure the fourth guaranteed slot from their group. But they can still make it if they beat Jordan in the playoffs.
A look at the weather before we go. There was a slight dip in temperatures today as a northeast monsoon arrived at the South China coast. Temperatures varied from 24.7 to 27.6 degrees, while the relative humidity was between 62 and 76%. Winds were fresh easterlies, strong offshore at times. Let's check on the ultraviolet reading. The maximum recorded for the day was 6. Tomorrow's UV index will be around 6 as well. Now look at the weather in the region. The northeast monsoon, which arrived today, will continue to affect the South China coastal areas. Now to the satellite images. Extensive cloud bands are covering the western region of Guangdong. Here's what we can expect over the next few days. Cloudy with light rain tomorrow, but also some sunny intervals. Temperatures will range between 23 and 27 degrees, brightening up on Friday, which will be dry. Expect more fine and dry days for the week ahead. Now for tomorrow's air pollution levels. General stations will be medium to high at 50 to 80, and roadside levels will be high at 70 to 100. And finally, here's the weather around the world.
That's our main news for Wednesday night. We'll have an update in 1 hour. I'm Emily Sue.
I'm Raymond Yeung.
And I'm Belinda Lloyd. Thanks for watching ATV. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Coming up, trackside. Every day we learn from him, from her, from someone we barely know. But what does it mean to you and me? Find out the answers on Check In Current News, Global 3000, Thursday night at 8. China and India. Two fast-growing giants catch the world's eyes. Indians in China, Chinese in India. Many have achieved success in all walks of life, crossing geographic and cultural barriers. They bridge two world's giants. All about documentary, Bridging Giants, China and India, Thursday night at 8:30. You can find everything green in Singapore. Buildings, gardens, and even every detail of the country are elaborately designed. To keep lasting green, the secret hides in technologies, but also responsibility. This world needs more green. So does the next generation.
Documentary World. A Green Mark, Singapore. Friday night at 9.
What happens now could be prevented in the future. What was impossible yesterday might become possible tomorrow. Let's find out how science makes our world a better place. Tomorrow Today. Saturday night at 7.
Love it? Say it. Discover the latest and the hottest trends in Japan. Feel the pulse of the vibrant and fabulous culture. JP Time TV, every Sunday night at 6:25.
This year, Asia's most legendary race is celebrating